Okay, thank you. Can you hear me well on that corner? Yes? This corner, can you hear me well? Very good. Okay, good morning. Very good, lots of good energy. So I have two good news for you before I start. The first one is that I'm the last speaker between you and lunch. And I'm Italian, I really know how food is important, and I think that you agree with this. Second is that instead of speaking for 30 minutes, I will speak for only 25 minutes, so you can get to lunch a little bit quicker. Okay? So, this talk is about how to develop mobile apps using the AWS cloud. And of course, it's divided into two parts. In the first part, I will try to set up the base information that we need to then understand the utility and the importance of using cloud computing to develop mobile applications. In India, it's quite clear that the mobile computing is growing at an incredible pace. And I decided to pick these two numbers for you. Try to think of what these two numbers might be. Let me give you some help. 88 is millions and 8 is percent. Can you try to imagine what these two numbers refer to? And being Indian, you should know about this. This is actually the number of internet subscribers at the end of 2010, 88 millions, and the percentage compared to the total population in India. So it's only 8%. If you look at this and compare these two numbers with other countries and their growth rate and their internet penetration, you can clearly see that India has a huge potential, a huge growth ahead. And if you think of how communications or telecommunications changed in the course of the last few decades, you might think of the AM radio in the early 20s and 30s. It took about 20 years to reach 80% of penetration in this case, specific in the US market. And TV took about 15 years to reach 80% of penetration. And then, of course, internet and now mobile is, as you can see from the very thick, very steep curve on the far right, mobile is growing at an incredible pace. And of course, it's set to be, to reach the 80% penetration much faster than any other telecommunication technology in the past. Try to guess this number. How many millions of mobile subscribers do you have in India? It's something 0.71 millions. Try to guess this number. Raise your hand. Try to guess the number. 300? No, way more. 700? No. 888. You are quite close. It's actually 865 million people are subscribed to mobile contracts in India. They have access to mobile devices. And of course, and this was just as of August 31st, 2011, so it's a very recent number. And of course, there is also another thing that is now exploding in India, which is the 3G network and the subscribers to 3G networks. And you know that India recently introduced 3G connectivity, and in fact, the growth of 3G subscribers is like 1,050% year over year. But then, even if we have these amazing numbers and this amazing growth ahead, we also have to face some challenges in developing for mobile platforms and serving customers using mobile platforms. The first of these challenges is the complexity of the web, the growing complexity of the web. This is Amazon.com's own page in 1996. 2 elements, 1 domain, 10 kilobytes, and quite a simple approach to selling books online. And if you look at 2011, the Amazon.com's homepage is much more complex. 98 elements, 12 domains, more than 600 kilobytes. And if you just consider in general what's happening to web complexity, you can take a look at the HTTP archive project, which is essentially an archive that collects data on websites, size of web pages, load times, and other things. And you can clearly see that the trend is just growing. The complexity, the size of web pages is just growing. It's going up. The second challenge is the cost of mobile devices. Or look at it in another way, what can you get for the same amount of money? And for the same amount of money, you can get a very powerful PC or desktop, a quite so powerful laptop, and both of them can have very good internet connectivity, Ethernet connectivity for your desktop, or maybe wireless connectivity for your laptop. But if you buy a smartphone, the CPU power and the performance and the connectivity to the internet is not really comparable to what you get on a laptop or on a desktop. And then there are limitations intrinsic to mobile devices. One is the limited amount of cache and memory you can get on these devices. The other one is power constraints in terms of battery life or the weight of the battery itself. Of course, we have to carry mobile devices with us. We cannot use a 7 kilograms battery, which would probably be enough to don't worry about batteries anymore. So we have to consider these limits, as well as the load time of an average page. For example, if you open a detailed page of a product on Amazon.com, on average, you need about 3 seconds on a desktop connected to the internet with a fast connection, but 3 times as much if you use a smartphone. And this is a combination of multiple things. One is reduced connectivity. One is the fact that mobile devices have to optimize battery consumption as much as possible, which means that they try to save on power when it goes to connecting to base station or Wi-Fi stations. So a combination of factors make it much slower to browse the internet using mobile devices. Let's look at these 3 challenges together. These are very important for us to consider. Web complexity, cost and/or performance of mobile devices, and last but not least, the intrinsic limitations of mobile devices. So it seems, at first sight, that the complex web and mobile devices don't really get along well together. It seems that the experience is a sad experience. But now enters the cloud. With cloud computing, we can just change that sad face into a smiley face, because we can overcome these challenges altogether just by using the power of a cloud computing platform. But instead of giving you technical details and diagrams and possibly boring things at this time of the day, just before lunch, I instead want to give you 5 stories. I want to tell you about 5 customers of us using Amazon Web Services for mobile devices and how they overcame these challenges by using some brain and our infrastructure and being able to serve their customers very well. The first story is an app called Discover Apps. Let me show a quick video. In this video, you can see the app that is working. You can tap on a specific application, and then the app will give you suggestions on things that you might be interested into. Then you can take a look at a specific application. You can read the details. In this case, we're looking at Flipboard. You can buy the application, or you can just go back and continue browsing. And then tap again and explore similar applications to the one that you're looking at. And this is very useful when you want to learn or discover new apps that might be useful specifically for you. These are the 2 founders of Filter Squad, which is the company behind Discover Apps. The reason why you should pay careful attention to this story is that Discover Apps has an incredible outcome. Discover Apps became #1 application on the Apple App Store in 28 countries around the world. 28 countries around the world, and I'm talking about big markets, USA, Germany, Australia, Japan. In these markets, this one has been the most downloaded application for iPhones. Can you imagine? In the first 4 days, when they launched the application, more than 250,000 people bought the application and downloaded the application on their phones. And now there are over 1 million downloads globally. And because of these numbers, because of their lean startup methods and their success, they were able to secure some interesting funding from UWO Capital of about 1.1 million US dollars very recently. So this is a fantastic success story. 2 developers in Perth, Australia, that were able to create something that became #1 application in 28 countries around the world. And they also use third-party applications. For example, they are a big fan of New Relic, which is a third-party service that allows you to monitor and check the performance and the status of your various cloud EC2 instances. From this story, there are a few lessons that I think we should learn. The first one is that you can do it from anywhere. We are not talking about a big startup with lots of funding and tens of developers in the Silicon Valley. We are talking about 2 developers in Perth, Australia, with no funding. They bootstrapped their startup, and they now were able to get funding. But they did everything by themselves, using the power of cloud computing. And they were also ready to scale when it was time. They didn't know that they were going to be so successful. And yet, they architected their infrastructure in such a way that it was super easy for them to scale when needed. And when they had 250,000 downloads in 4 days, of course, they had to scale. And Amazon Web Services allowed them to scale seamlessly. So Lean Startup is an interesting concept. You can read more about it. You can just search online for more details. But it's something that actually goes together very well with cloud computing. And the fourth lesson is that there are so many third-party products. There is a huge ecosystem around AWS that makes it easier for you to decide which services you want, which extra features you want, and then use them. And AWS is easy to integrate with third-party softwares or services. You can read more about them on this link here, bit.ly/discover-apps. The second story is an Indian company that doesn't need any introduction, L&T Infotech. So they do many things, as you know, but I want to focus on one thing in particular. They essentially started to develop solutions for what they call the enterprise mobility as a service. You can look at this very simple diagram here, and essentially they created this application called SmartMiles. And this application allows you to use different types of devices, from smartphones to low-end phones, tablets, laptops, PCs, etc., and connect them to the backend of your enterprise applications through SmartMiles. Let me give you some more details about this. Let's imagine that you are an enterprise company. You buy this SmartMiles solution by L&T Infotech. And all of a sudden, you're able to let your employees use the backend applications in real time using any device. You can use SAP products, PeopleSoft. You can use databases. You can use many things, HR systems, just through your smartphones or tablets or your laptops when you are on the go. The user interface adapts dynamically to the resolution of the device that you're using. And it's also network independent. You can do it when you are on GSM networks, when you are on CDMA networks, or simply on Wi-Fi. They also provide data encryption, because we are talking about enterprise applications, important data that you want to keep secret, and you can't afford to send data unencrypted when you connect your device to the enterprise applications in the backend. So everything is encrypted from end to end. And they use, for example, many of our products. One of the recent ads is Amazon Elasticache, which, as you probably know, is a cache system that you can put in between your databases and your applications to speed up the query time and the reads of your application to the database. And they use many other services as well. They also provide to their customers an integrated device management console, and they can also do a remote wipe. If, for example, you lose your mobile phone and you might think, oh, there might be important data in it, you can remotely wipe the data from that phone. And of course, they also offer SMP and WAP functionality. All these things, all these features are key elements for an enterprise company to adopt a solution like this one. And of course, everything runs on AWS. The entire service that they provide, SmartMiles, runs 100% on AWS. From this lesson, from this example, we can learn two lessons in particular. One is that the enterprise world actually loves mobile applications and mobile services, and they will use them as much as possible, if, of course, they meet the criteria that they have: security, encryption, remote data wipe, and of course, being able to use the enterprise apps that they need when they are on the go. And of course, barriers can be overcome. You don't necessarily think of mobile devices as something that allows you to really use your enterprise applications. But when you think about it, you just need an internet connection. And then you're able to do most of the things that you can do on a regular desktop if the application was designed in the right way. The third example is, again, another Indian company, in this case a startup. It's called vserve.mobi. They provide a platform that allows application developers to put ads inside their applications. So when they publish their applications, they can easily monetize on these applications using the huge network of advertisers that vServe provides. This is a very interesting service. And for vServe, when they started developing this service, they had three specific needs in mind. The first one was the solution that we pick should be flexible and scalable for two reasons. First, once we launch, we will not know how successful we will be. And second, when we will be able to get contracts with big application developers, they don't know how many ads they will display on their applications. So it's very difficult to provision the right amount of hardware to power these applications. Second, we are a startup. We want to avoid capital investment as much as possible. And in fact, with us, they can pay as they go. And third, they were going to serve customers all around the world. They wanted a global player. And of course, the solution was to use AWS. AWS is flexible, is scalable. You pay as you go. You pay only for what you use. And of course, you can deploy your infrastructure in Singapore, in Tokyo, in the US, in Europe, and you can use CloudFront in 20 locations around the world to push your content out. And in addition to the main benefits that they were looking for, the time to market of their service was reduced significantly. And of course, they were also able to optimize their costs by exploring additional options. As you know, when you launch an Amazon EC2 instance or a virtual server, the default way to do this is to pay on demand. You pay a few cents per hour, and of course, based on the number of machines that you run. But there are also other ways to provision that infrastructure. One of them is the reserved instance. You pay a small upfront fee, and then it allows you to save significant costs when you run your machines, for example, in 12 months' time. And you can also save money by bidding on capacity. This is the spot instance market. So there are many ways to optimize costs, and they decided to study to understand the details of this because they wanted to optimize costs because they are a startup. They, of course, are very careful on their costs. So the two lessons are time to market for your ideas is essential. If you find a platform like Amazon Web Services that allows you to reduce the time to get your idea to the market, you have to consider that as a big advantage. And second, you can learn how to save money. Even if we are very cost effective, you can reduce costs even more if you understand what you really need. And as you saw in John Hiram's presentation just before me, as a cloud architect, you can save a lot of money by optimizing the infrastructure that you run on AWS. As a reminder, if you want to comment, if you want to share what we are doing today, you can use the AWS Tour Twitter tag and share it with your friends. So the fourth story is a very interesting story. It's the Pryk Foundation. And to tell you this story, we virtually go to South Africa. In South Africa, there are some problems. One of them is the management of patients that are on chronic medication. It happens that some patients have terrible diseases, such as, for example, HIV, and they need to receive ART or antiretroviral treatment at regular appointments, at regular moments. And when they do, the fact that clinics don't talk to patients, or the fact that it's very difficult to arrange the logistics around it, some appointments get missed and treatments become discontinued, which brings, of course, huge problems in terms of the health status of these patients. And then managing and administering these clinics is a burden. And it's not even possible to have an historical data on the medical conditions of these patients. So this is a terrible situation, but Pryk Foundation came in and decided to do something about it. So let me ask you how this problem can be solved. I want to give you some options. Tablets or PCs, we can distribute them to clinics to optimize how they do their work, or maybe we provide broadband connection in the areas where this problem is huge, or maybe we need to bring IT education for the staff that is managing these clinics, or maybe we just need more medical staff. What do you think? Who is in favor of more medical staff? Raise your hands. Only a few people. IT education, raise your hands. More people. What about broadband? Bringing broadband to these areas. What about PCs or tablets? Raise your hand again. Okay, as you see, it's not clear what the solution could be. But in fact, none of this was the solution adopted by them. They decided to use simple SMS. This is how it works. Let me show you. They actually demoed this very recently, and they also won a very interesting prize at the recent conference in Africa. And they showed the audience how this system works. The system is called TXT Alert. You, as a patient, subscribe to the service, you opt in, then you receive a message, welcome to TXT Alert. And then 2 weeks before the appointment, you get a reminder. In 2 weeks, you will need to go to the appointment. The day before, you get another reminder. And then the patient might go to the appointment, but after the appointment, the day after, we ask them, did you go? Or if they didn't show up, why you didn't go? So if you think about it, it's a very simple approach. And yet, just by doing this, they were able to reduce the missed appointments from about 30% down to 4%. So many treatments were not discontinued as a result of this. They're also able to introduce a service called Please Call Me. You can send an SMS to the clinic saying, please call me. And TXT Alert alerts the clinic, and the clinic will call the patient and say, how can I help you? And all the administration and also the medical history can now be automated because everything is tracked using these SMS services. So this is a diagram of their architecture. I don't want to bore you with these details right now because we're close to lunch, but you will be able to see this when you download the slides. And they were able to get amazing results. 70,000 daily page views, 2,000 comments every day. It's an amazing solution. And from here, from this one, you can learn at least 3 things. First, simple is beautiful. When you want to solve a problem, try to think of a simple solution. Don't underestimate SMS, and don't do it in India. SMS services can be very powerful, as well as good engineering that can usually help solve a problem more effectively. The 5th example and last is Kulisa, an Indian company. They provide services to use social technologies. mostly for enterprise customers here in India. And they also have a very interesting blog in which they describe cloud computing and they comment on technical details of Amazon Web Services. And recently they launched a service called TXT Web. You can SMS something to this number and then retrieve the content from a web page. For example, you can do this to retrieve the description of Amazon Web Services from Wikipedia. Actually, I want to let you try it out right now if you want. You can send an SMS to this number. You can take your phones now, keep them silent, but you can put them in your hands. You can send them an SMS, and you have to write at AWS Tour 11, and you will receive a message from us, something that we customize for you. You can try it out right now, 92-433-42,000. So I'm going to go ahead because we are running out of time. From this example, you can learn 3 things. I already told you, don't underestimate the value of SMS services. There is a huge potential in India for anything related to mobile technologies. And of course, it's super easy to do this on the cloud. This service runs on AWS. And it was super easy for them to deploy this SMS service on the AWS cloud. So I think that developing apps is something super important to capture a growing market. If you are developing for high-end smartphones, you can use the mobile developer center that we have on our website. You can download the SDK or software development kit for Android or for iOS. And as final thoughts, I think that you should consider that we are in India. India has a huge potential for mobile applications. And it's now up to you to take advantage of a cloud platform that can ease the process of deploying these applications in the cloud. So I want to thank you very much. As a reminder, you can use AWS Tour as a Twitter tag. I want to now let Shane Owenby, the Managing Director of Asia Pacific, come on stage for a few final words, and then you can finally go to lunch. Thank you very much.